afternoon. It is on the top of the hour. My name is Rose Lawson, and I have the pleasure of serving as the library director in Alexandria, Virginia. And I am so happy to welcome you this afternoon to our Take a Seat Artist Panel. I want to thank you all for being here. So those of you, I want to thank the artists. I want to thank any family that's present. Friends, neighbors, supporters of the arts, you name it, I'm happy you are here. So your presence here this afternoon reflects something we value deeply at the library, and that is the whole idea of creativity that thrives within our communities. Now, I have to tell you, when my staff brought this idea of the program to me, I actually was very thrilled. However, a little nervous about it, because for those of us in the room who are of a certain age, you may remember the donkeys and the elephants and the pandas in DC. So that's the sort of thing that came to mind for me. And I was like, wow, ooh, that's big. You guys really think you can do this? But I trusted. I trusted that my staff would be able to do this, because I have seen many, many times where they take just one little spark of an idea and they help it grow into a new, creative, and inventive program. So here we are again. As a unique program, the Take a Seat program has been, and it still is, a part of the library's mission, and that is to support learners of all ages and to celebrate the creativity that exists within the community. And so today's event, the theme of America 250, and all the amazing chairs. I loved it. Every day they would say, a couple are arriving today. It was like Christmas. We'd come way down in the hall, and someone would call my office and say, the chairs are here. And I'd come running down, and so you should have seen us acting like kids unwrapping presents, because we were getting a sneak preview before anybody else. But the theme today, America's 250, and with these amazing chairs, they've been on display throughout the library and throughout the community for about 30 days, and we are going to take the opportunity today to celebrate them and to talk to the panel, because it helps us as we talk about the city and the country's past as well as our present. It challenges us to look a little closer, to think differently, to notice beauty everywhere, complexity, humor, struggle, and hope, the hope that is still around us today. So our community artists in particular play a special role, because it's their work that grows directly from the places we live and the people that we know. It represents and reflects our neighborhoods, our cultures, our histories, and our shared experiences. So today, I encourage you to listen with curiosity. We want you to ask questions and take time to engage with the artwork and with one another. Conversations like these help to strengthen the cultural life of our city and remind us of the power that our art has and how it brings us together. So today, I once again would like to thank you for joining us and supporting our local artists and our public libraries, because together we're a stronger community. And it is now my pleasure to introduce Mr. Al Mosley, the Vice President of the Alexandria Library Foundation. Thank you.
Good afternoon, and I would like to thank everyone for coming out today. I would like to thank Rose and her staff, the library staff, who put on this whole project and put it all together. I'm Al Mosley. As Rose said, I am the Vice Chair of the Alexandria Library Foundation. I'm here today in that capacity. The foundation provides grants to our library system to provide services, programs, and resources beyond those covered by the city's annual budget. We work in close collaboration with the library leadership, like Rose, to identify how we can most effectively enhance and expand the library's impact on our community. In short, the foundation makes our already excellent library even better by ensuring it has the resources that neighbors of all ages want and need today, tomorrow, and always. The Take a Seat program is special. It's an incredibly unique partnership between the library, the foundation, the city, and local artists. Together, we turn chairs that would otherwise become trash into these truly incredible creations, which, by the way, you can take home with you. The foundation is hosting an auction, and each of these pieces of art is available. If you want to bid, there are QR codes around the room as well as at each chair. Or you can visit Alexandria Library Foundation.org/chair. Bidding will be open for another week, so be sure to check it out before May 17th. And with that, I can't wait to hear from these artists, their creative processes, and what participating in this program means to them. It is my pleasure and honor to introduce today's panel. First, we have Ashley Reinhardt, who is a sustainable fashion designer and upscaling advocate. She founded Paloma Vintage Designs in 2020 and has dedicated her practice to transforming discarded textiles and vintage materials into wearable art that challenges fast fashion culture. Ashley creates one-of-a-kind pieces that honor both the history embedded in vintage materials and the urgent need for sustainable design practices. She views upcycling not merely as an environmental practice, but as storytelling. Each reused material carries its own narrative that deserves continuation rather than disposal. Her piece is adjourned through time, 250 years of American textiles. Welcome, Ashley. Matt Liptick is a mixed media artist residing in Old Town Alexandria. He works in digital mediums like photography and illustration, while also blending hand-drawn and hand-fabricated elements into his work. Liptick holds a BFA in Fine Art Photographic Illustration from the Rochester Institute of Technology, and is currently a resident artist at the Torpedo Factory Art Center in Alexandria. His piece is titled A Seat for Our Bounty, Our Harvest. Welcome back. Vicki McGill is a mixed media artist who was always drawn to creative expression, first through crafting and photography and painting and drawing. Her professional life as a graphic designer heavily influences her art, emphasizing visual communication and command of diverse mediums. Her piece is titled Path to Freedom. Welcome, Vicki. Jenny Newberry is a mixed media artist who creates sculpture and assemblage-based work from reclaimed and discarded materials. She gives new life to what is often overlooked, inviting viewers to reconsider value, waste, and beauty. She is the founder of Very Fine Goods, a circular business that helps individuals and families downsize responsibly while diverting usable materials from landfills. This work directly informs her art, providing both materials and inspiration for pieces that honor personal histories and environmental responsibility. Her work has been exhibited throughout Virginia. Her piece is titled Sit with History, Rise with Freedom. Welcome, Jenny. Diane Ruggiero is the Deputy Director with the City of Alexandria's Recreation, Arts, and Cultural Activities Department and leads the Office of the Arts, which serves as the local arts agency in the city and provides arts and cultural support and services for residents, visitors, and organizations in our community. Diane directs the development and management of a comprehensive citywide cultural arts program, including the city's award-winning public arts program, event production and permitting, grant administration, and the Torpedo Factory Arts Center. Welcome in. And Elle Simmons is the Teen Services Coordinator here at Beacon Library and will be our moderator. And with that, I will thank you for being here today, and I will turn the program over to Elle and the panel.
Thank you very much for that introduction. So we're going to be asking our panelists some questions today. We will have some time at the end for some audience questions. So start thinking of them as we go through. Now, we got a little bit of an introduction of each of you. You all come from some sort of art background. Diane, so you're currently the Deputy Director of Cultural Activities, but you have degrees in arts administration, art history. You have ran programs and galleries in Virginia and in North Carolina. All four of you artists are currently working in an artistic field or doing things in the community. So my question for you all is, how did art become a part of your lives today? It's a big one to start off with.
I'll just start real quick. So, as you mentioned, I have art administration, art history, and experience in working in the arts and with artists, but I am not an artist at all. And I think for me, when I was younger, I enjoyed the arts and really wanted to work in the arts, and lacking any talent whatsoever, arts administration really kind of became the path for me to be involved in the arts and get a chance to work with artists. I started in the nonprofit sector, but wanted to have more of a community impact. So I work to make sure that the community has access to arts experiences, and so made the transition over to being a bureaucrat. So, but still in the arts. So.
So the arts have always been a part of my life. I started out, I'm a violist, so actually my degrees in music and psychology. Oh, you do? Awesome. Violists are the best.
we never meet other violists.
Yes, no, I have to talk, I have a lot of questions. So I used to work in arts administration on the music side for symphonies and community and engagement. When I had kids, I pivoted to, I've always been drawn to visual art, have made visual art, as a hobby. But when I was home with my kids, people started asking if I would sell it. So then I missed the community engagement aspect. So I missed connecting with the community about art and upcycling. And so I have taken part in a lot of different organizations now that bring arts to the community, that are more accessible. A really great one that I'm sure I'll mention again is Upcycled Creative Reuse Center. And anyway, so arts have always been part of my life. I've just done different paths.
It may be cliche, but as a kid, I was an artist. My parents saw that in me. I had a very supportive mother and father who, they took us to, I grew up in Ohio, near the Butler Museum of American Art, and there were classes there, and they said, let's take the kids there. Maybe it was to pass time, I don't know, but something started there and was sparked there, and so my entire life I've always just made art and have had people support me in that endeavor, which I'm very lucky for. But yeah, I pursued a degree in photography, and now I work as a creative director, and so I guess art is just a part of my life and has stayed that way. So it's people who support you. I think that's really important.
I piggyback on that. Growing up, I grew up in DC, and sometimes there were art class opportunities, other times there weren't, but we always see art everywhere around us. There are a lot of people who believe, oh, I don't have a creative bone in my body. Take an art class. It'll come out.
So I'm a little bit different than everybody else. I'm relatively new to art. My mom was an oil painter, and I tried to emulate that as a child and never could, and so I figured I'm not an artist. I'll never be an artist. But I was creative in other ways. I have been an entrepreneur for the last 20 years, and I ran a custom bakery, and so my art kind of came out through that without me realizing that I was an artist. And so, just like a lot of people, COVID kind of upended my life, and I found myself with a tin can and a telephone cord, and I made my first upcycled piece there, and it's just kind of grown from that moment.
It sounds like a supportive community is really the thread through all of your stories, and I love to hear that. So for our artists, walk us through your creative process. Now, we're specifically talking about America's 250th anniversary. How did that play into your ideas for your chair?
Go right down the line.
During COVID, I became really interested about the sustainability of clothing and jewelry because I already reuse materials, but I went down this whole rabbit hole of researching and learning about the importance of the people who make our clothes, the life cycle of our clothes or materials. And so there are, and I think it's best highlighted recently by the Met Gala. I won't get into too much, but I really appreciate that certain folks highlighted the actual people who make the clothing and to, you know, all the different parts of the business of clothing, like, sorry, I'm like totally blanking, the transport, you know, the transportation of it, and then also the recycling or where it goes. And so when I was thinking about 250 years of American history, on my chair, the bottom foundation is back when everyone handmade their clothes and people could really understand the labor that went behind that. And then we have grown over, you know, many years, but there's still a lot of, not as many in the US now, but there's still a lot of garment workers that need to be recognized for their contributions and their work because they are totally exploited. Anyway, so I was thinking about the unsung folks in the that produce what everyone wears, which is clothes. So I'm, believe it or not, I'm not that interested in fashion. I'm more interested in the women who are primarily the people that are exploited by the fashion industry. And then also that we all wear clothes and think about the labor and care and artistry that goes behind it.
Similarly, I kind of picked like something came to me, like a topic came to me, and I wanted to build on that. So they say sometimes it's a good place to start is to start with what you know, right? So like, I love to garden and I love to do things like that. And has anyone watched the Ken Burns documentary about the American Revolution at all? It's fantastic. And so my chair speaks to agriculture as well as sort of the systems that were created around that and the history, you know, that agriculture plays and the land plays in our country. And so there's that documentary does this amazing thing where it talks about how valuable land was and how valuable, you know, our country as it started, the agriculture, the systems that were built, and how so much of that continued through all of the revolution, you know, claiming land, but also the fertility of the land that would be taken from it. And so I was like, that's a really interesting way to, like, this is how our country started. It was first and foremost land, right? And the systems that were built out of that, you know, both oppressive and, you know, gregarian that created our country. So that was the kernel for me. And then I wanted to I wanted the challenge of trying to create, you know, nature using sustainable materials, using things like that, and putting it on a chair. So that was sort of the challenge that presented it for me. So yeah.
You go next.
I guess it's me. For me, and just thinking about America 250, I thought about what stories are not being told. Because I mean, we see a lot of things that are planned for the rest of this year, focused on the 250th. In addition to being an artist, I'm a professional genealogist. So I'm researching people's family history. And there are a lot of stories, if we think about where were we in this country 250 years ago, a lot of African Americans were enslaved. We had Native Americans who were pushed off the land, things of that nature. So I really wanted to focus on the African Americans who were in the Alexandria area as well as throughout Virginia. And we had this Revolutionary War, but they're not really centered other than maybe Crispus Attucks. So I chose 4 people who were in the Alexandria area who were patriots. And that's how my chair came to be.
So my chair is based around the idea of the good, the bad, and the ugly of American history, and to kind of touch on the genealogy. While I was coming up with this idea for my chair, my son started looking into our family history. And while my husband is first generation, born here, apparently my family goes way back. And I'm talking from the very beginning, and there's a lot of good, bad, and ugly in my genealogy. And I felt like the ideas of the United States that brought my family here way back also still bring people here today, you know, and we talk about the trials and tribulations and the not so good things that are going on even presently. And you wonder, why are people still coming, to our shores? And it's a simple answer, and it's freedom. And so when I thought about that a little bit more, I wanted to make the eagle with its wings, open as though it's flying away, freedom rising. If you look at some of the pictures that are on my piece, they're from the 1800s, and some of them are not so easy to look at and admit to. And, while my son was kind of, touching into our genealogy, there's some pieces in there that are a little, iffy. And unfortunately, that is a part of the United States. And so that was kind of my basis for making my eagle. There's good, but there's also bad. And in order to get beyond that and to be better, we have to sit down with what has happened, what has made America where we are today, 250 years. And so that was kind of my inspiration for my piece.
You have a diverse audience in, Alexandria citizens. Especially I know, Vicki, you've done something similar with the Wilmington Wonderland, where you had a set canvas of a snowman that you had to decorate. So if you would like to lead us off with this, but any of you are welcome to answer. What are the challenges or difficulties in participating in a project like this, where you have all the options and a very defined canvas?
It's very interesting. First, you come up with this idea. Then, when you see the chair, how am I executing this? I had this in my mind, but how am I making this on this? For the snowman was 5 feet tall. He had, 3 spheres type of thing. And it was like, can I really paint this thing on here? Am I really that talented? With the chair, how much is too much? How much is too little? And then once I saw everybody's on the website, I was like, I could have done more. I was impressed with myself, but I wasn't sure. And then when I got to see them in person, and the eagle with the plastic utensils, the pictures don't even do it justice. I was like, you did this with plastic utensils. My God. I would like to go next.
I'll just say so the chairs are beautiful and they're heavy, which was like a surprise, like the maneuvering them. And also in my mind, when you think of a chair, I thought, oh, this is gonna be very symmetrical. The front's gonna be the same as the back. And these chairs are beautiful wooden chairs that have different angles and curves. So we were all talking about how, for me, I have these corn stalks coming off the back of mine, and I'm like, so those now lean back? Because that's what happens in a chair. And so it was a lot of creative problem solving, a lot of I like to think of the flow and the shape of things, and so trying to understand that. After I had drawn it all out, I was like, oh, this has to change in certain ways. I have hands that are sort of mounted on the bottom of mine, and I had to attach them multiple times because they were going every which way. So the physicalness of the chair was an interesting challenge for sure. So yeah. They're great chairs, they're beautiful.
Forgiving.
Yeah.
Forgiving.
Just to agree with them completely, the chairs are heavy. They were kind of difficult to work with. There was a night where my husband and I sat there and just stared at this chair, like, what am I going to do with this thing? And attaching everything. What materials are you going to use? It was. I like what you said. You have this piece. But then you can do whatever you want with it within 250 America, and it was difficult to come up with an idea. You're staring at a wooden chair. It's amazing the stuff that everybody came up with. I mean, absolutely amazing.
Main problems just in general as an artist is trying to balance not including too many details. I always include way more details, kind of like how I talk as well. So for me, I knew in my mind that I wanted to do a history of what we wear throughout the 250 years, trying to fit all those eras in one chair was very, very challenging. So I ended up dividing them into 6 zones. I will say, and I'm sure a lot of us can relate, when you're an upcycler artist or upcycling artist, you are used to getting, I mean, it was still a huge, huge challenge, but that's kind of why I like doing or making upcycled art, is you have to work with the structure of the materials you already have. And then that in itself is a challenge. So I was very excited to have that challenge of how am I going to create a piece of artwork on this very heavy, not flat chair. And also I wanted to have sort of a garden effect on the top of the chair. And so I ended up drilling the chair, using wire. I used, I think, at least 3 different types of adhesives. I was trying to be able to put the fabric on the chair, and some places I'm more proud of than others, but like having it lay a certain way was very hard, especially on the spokes of the chair. So yeah, I'm really excited and happy that I got to take part in it, because it was a whole new challenge I've never had before.
Diane, do you feel like there has been a shift into sustainable practices in providing art experiences, in a public sphere? And do you feel like artists, community members have a responsibility towards sustainable practices?
So that's an interesting question. There are some artists, like the artist here today, but at various scales and types of art that specifically work in, with the idea of sustainability, with the idea of, just the environment, all different types of things. I don't know that we've, in the field, public art is the one that comes to mind the most. I think it's become definitely a part of the conversation about where are the materials coming from. We get a lot of questions, so we do the public art installation down on the waterfront every year. And every year we get the question of what is going to happen to this, where is it going to go? And fortunately, from the beginning, we were working with artists that, wanted to be able to answer that question. So that has definitely become part of the discussion each year when the art is created and then what happens to it afterwards. So I think we're getting better. I don't know that we're all the way there. I don't know that, I would say artwork that is on more of the permanent side, it still has a lifespan. It's not an indefinite lifespan. And I think for some of those pieces, we are not maybe doing as good of a job thinking ahead 30 years, right? When we're doing the Site C installation, we're thinking ahead 9 months. What are we going to do with this in 9 months? But when we're commissioning more permanent pieces that are expected to be there for 20, 30, 40 years, we are not, we don't know where things are going to be at the time. And I'm sure that there's going to be people sitting on a panel like this in 30 years going like, what were they thinking? Didn't they understand? Why didn't they take this into consideration? And so I think it's amazing that there are artists that, again, are making this their practice, or definitely at least making it a part of their practice, which helps us as arts administrators kind of think that through. The community is already there. Like I said, every year it's the first question that we get when the new piece gets installed at the waterfront. Where is this going to go? What's going to happen to it? So I think the community is there. I think we're catching up as a field, but I think that there's still more to do. And the more artists that kind of make this a part of their practice, the better off we'll be.
What have you changed in your process to be more sustainable, or what are some things that you think about as far as sustainability? And do you have any advice for community members, for consumers, to be more sustainable in how they bring that art into their lives?
So I'm trying to remember the first part of your question. I heard the last part. So first of all, with sustainable practices, the one thing that, so I also produce this event called the Refashion Show, which promotes artists who reuse materials. In fact, Jenny was one of our visual artists last year. The whole part of the event too is to introduce small changes you can make, because we don't want to come from a place of shame or judgment. I think when you're talking about the art community or art industry, I think all of the industries are in the same position where we're just starting to adapt more to sustainable practices. So I think it's not realistic to expect someone to be completely zero waste. There are those folks out there, and that's fantastic. But I think if we all make smaller changes that are more manageable, that is more sustainable for everyone, and it adds up as a bigger impact. I think one of the best ways, if you're a consumer of art, is to support your local independent artists as much as you can. Also, to understand it's so hard to, even for me, to understand the costs, because we're so used to things being so low priced, low priced. But that takes away, somebody is paying for that. Whether it's, so a piece of clothing, if it's $5, that means that somebody else is eating the cost. So if you really understand what goes into a piece of art, and how much time it really takes, you can then be more selective, you won't overconsume, and also if you support designers or artists in your community, you're supporting small businesses, and that is, even if they make brand new pieces with new materials, if you're supporting someone in your community where it stays the circular economy, the resources stay within your community, that in itself is more sustainable. There was one other point, I think everybody has artistic talent or inclinations, and so I really appreciate Upcycle Creative Reuse Center. If you don't know about it, it is a place where people donate their unused or gently used art supplies, and some of the supplies are really, really quality, and it makes it art and self-expression really accessible to a lot more people that wouldn't have the budget to buy art supplies. I try as an artist to shop secondhand for my materials, obviously, as much as possible. So I would be happy afterwards to talk to anyone about Upcycle Creative Reuse Center. It's a great way to explore your artistic side.
I grew up in a family where we saved things. We may have saved more things than we should have saved. But literally, the cardboard box that comes, you save it. You may need to ship something later on. The bracelet or the necklace that breaks, it's beaded. You can make a bracelet, things of that nature. Many of us order from different places. I'm not even going to talk about the Met Gala and who sponsored that, but we get many things from that place. A lot of things come in boxes. We can use boxes for other things. If you look at my piece, you'll notice my ships, some of them are made of cardboard. There are maker centers or maker places, different places. For me, I use sometimes the one at Martin Luther King Library in Washington, D.C. Excuse me, but I mainly go to the one that's in Arlington's library. On Queens, I think it's on Queen Street. I can't think of the name of the library right now. But either way, they have different machines, different things that you can use there, namely the laser cutter, the glow forge. So those ships were cut using the glow forge. If you go to many of these centers, you will see some of the amazing things people have made of scrap wood and especially of cardboard. So I suggest, if you have any creative inkling, get on YouTube, get on the internet, search for how can I upcycle this thing, even if it's just a cardboard box.
I was gonna say, you asked what are some things people can do. Is I have a box in my studio of when a project's done, there's always remnants. There's always things that didn't make the final cut, or there's something that I tried and didn't work. It goes in there because inevitably I'll be doing something down the line. It's remember that thing? So similar, keep everything, but when you're working on a project, even if it's a few pieces of scrap from something very specific you were making, one, you can repair that thing if you need to. Keeping some of it's always good to have. But you'd be surprised what a little paint or dye, or how you can transform something that was used for something completely different can become an integral part of a piece or something you're making later on. So, you know, it can get overwhelming to keep everything, that's sort of, but a good sturdy box full of all the things, like little scraps and pieces and stuff, can go a long way down the road, so.
I know we all joke about the box of chords that's living in some room of our house.
Yeah.
And that also makes me think of, you know, as a youth librarian, we kind of have that same mindset. There's always, this might be used for some craft, or this children's program. I love that. So we're going to talk a little bit about arts in Alexandria as a whole, but feel free to chime in, you know, in our neighboring communities, because we are really part of a large arts community in this area. What does a vibrant artistic community look like to you?
Can I see?
Yes.
So I think a vibrant arts community is honestly like Alexandria. So I was in my first show at Del Rey Artisans. There are just so many opportunities here in Alexandria. You know, you have the Take a Seat project that we're a part of. You have the Creative Reuse Center that Ashley brought up. You have down by the waterfront. You know, there's just kind of an endless supply of free artistic adventures here in Alexandria. And I just have a soft spot for it because, like I said, Del Rey was the first place that I ever had a piece on exhibit. And I think that Alexandria as a whole just really tries very hard to connect its community with its artists and present, you know, programs like this one. I just think Alexandria is doing a really good job right now.
Yeah, I'll echo that. I think we're all very lucky to be a part of this community and what it does to support the arts as is. I'm very lucky I have a studio at the Torpedo Factory, which is, you know, truly a gem for this community. We have working artists in a space, you know, right in the center of our town that are doing so many unique and amazing things. So I think what also makes a vibrant community for the arts is the support and the people that come up, that show up here today to learn and to engage, and also, you know, shop local. Your art can be local too. Your gifts, you know, Mother's Day is tomorrow. There's a lot of beautiful things you can buy in our community, and those directly support the community as well. But you know, Alexandria is doing some amazing things, and I think this is also an amazing example of that as well.
I'll say another to add on to what was already mentioned, making arts accessible to everyone who wants to participate is really a core part, I think, of having a vibrant community. And again, Upcycle, we're so lucky to have our Upcycle Creative Reuse Center in Alexandria to bring all folks from all different backgrounds to be able to have access to quality materials to use. I also think having a cross-generational, cross-cultural community built around art and art making is also part of a vibrant community as well. We're also so lucky in the whole DMV area to have such great talent and from all different backgrounds, and when we all work together on certain projects, especially collaborative art projects, I think that is another example of a vibrant arts community.
So I agree with everything that everybody has said. To me, it's about the community. I mean, one of the reasons that we have the arts resources that we do is because the community, I'm not going to say demands the resources that we have, but there is very much a desire from the community to have a strong arts presence here. You know, the Torpedo Factory was founded in 1974, one of the first examples of adaptive reuse. When we talk about upcycling, right, the Torpedo Factory is really one of probably our largest examples of that, taking a former munitions plant and folks that had a vision that it could be something else, that it could be something creative for Alexandria, And I think that expectation and that example has just continued in Alexandria ever since, the Art League's been around for, it's getting on close to 100 years now here in Alexandria. So the arts, just have been here for such a long time. I think it's something that has become a part of Alexandria's identity. It's why people want to come here. I think it's why artists want to be here. So, yeah.
And so to kind of piggyback on that, we're very lucky to have programs like Take a Seat, the Mobile Art Lab, our public artworks. What do or how does that contribute to our local community?
So we started the Mobile Art Lab as, so again, we go back to community, right? Because none of this works if the community's not there to engage in it, right? If the community is not interested, or if the community doesn't come out to participate or engage, none of it really works. That said, we have pockets in our city. We're kind of small geographically, but we have pockets in our city that are not getting serviced with easy access to arts resources and arts experiences. So the Mobile Art Lab was created as a way to kind of fill that gap a little bit. We can go out and do a pop-up art program. We can go out and do a pop-up concert, show a movie, just any type of thing to get the community engaged in a creative experience. So again, I think it's making that access easier for folks to participate, taking away that expectation that they come to the arts experience. But I think what we have seen too is for the diversity that exists within Alexandria, the arts are the one thing that is shared across all of the different folks that we have here, whether it's age or where they've come from. It's one thing that when you come out to a festival, you come to the Torpedo Factory, everybody understands art and wants to participate.
And for those of you who don't know, in that shared art history, we have many museums in Alexandria. As an Alexandria resident, there's free admission for a lot of these museums, so definitely something to check out. So for my artists, how has the Take a Seat program changed either how you think about Alexandria Library, how you think about the city of Alexandria, or even about America's history?
I guess I'll start just in reference to America's history, because my piece that's the core aspect of it. Times are tricky and kind of rocky right now, and it's hard to see the good at times. It's hard to remember, the ideals that our country is based on. And I hadn't seen my eagle in a little while. So this whole project has kind of changed my idea or my opinion of what's currently going on. If you look at the newspaper clippings on my piece that make up the seat, you're gonna see some reoccurring themes. And we've always made it through. And so that's kind of my take, is that I think we'll make it through now too, even if things are depressing and hard. And so it just kind of changed my view of how I'm looking at the news and the media and coverage of certain things. I try to remind myself that we've been through tough stuff before, and hopefully, if we stick to the ideals of freedom and respect for each other and respect for our country, we'll be able to make it through even harder times.
art builds community. So for me, I really enjoy all of the community projects I'm involved with that takes me off online, off the news, and really connecting with the people who are right around you and strengthening your relationships with people. So I really appreciate Alexandria for having this initiative because it really highlights that when things are especially hard, art is a really powerful tool to bring joy, to hope, activism, all kinds of different things, but it really helps build community. And so I think that the Take a Seat, having the artwork, especially around different places in Alexandria, and Alexandria does an amazing job of having so many public art installations too, that brings joy and helps people really connect offline with real people and real conversations.
I appreciate my design idea being selected as part of this project. And I really think when people take time to look at the chairs, it should give you an idea of things you can do with, say, furniture that may not be looking like it did when you first got it, and things that you can do with it to keep it around.
Yeah, I think it's been an amazing experience, and I'm also thankful that like my design was chosen as well, especially because I think artists are asked sometimes to create art that is a statement. That's part of a lot of what art is. You want people to see it and react, whether it's joy or conflict, or you want them to think. And so it's wonderful that the library in Alexandria was willing to accept ideas that pushed that and helped us as artists look at what does 250 years of American legacy mean, right? That's a very loaded, complicated thing, as we've all discussed. But the library and the city embracing that we can have conversations and we can explore the topics that might be a little ugly around the edges and things like that, but also still have it be part of this. I'm looking at all the chairs here, part of this whole story that we're trying to tell. So it's just a really great way to embrace something that's both challenging, can be celebratory, can be about a lot of things. So it's great that all of that was included and open for that.
Do you have any recommendations about how someone can get involved in either making art or being active in the local art community, whether or not they're an artist?
Take a class. If you feel like you can't do something, I've been a graphic designer professionally since around '92. And after that, I decided to go back to college because I started at Howard in the '80s, went a few years, left. Then I went to University of Maryland, University College around 2001. And we had to take an art class. And I was like, I can't draw, but I'm gonna try this. And we kept drawing this same skeleton over and over and over again with different mediums. And I learned you can draw. If you take a class and do it enough times, you can do it. So take a class.
I was gonna say too that like, even if you don't become like an artist in quotes, so to speak, art can slow you down in a really beautiful way. Other people say, I can't draw, I can't paint, I can't do any of those things. And I like to sort of say, it's like, but you can, you just haven't slowed down enough to enter into the space that it takes to make art. Example I like to use, like everyone can draw a tree, right? It's you trunk, the trunk, and the squiggles on the top. But no tree looks like that. And when you stop and you pick up a pen, you start drawing each branch and each leaf, and you enter into that like almost therapeutic state sometimes when you're making art. You start to say, oh, I can draw a tree. A tree is just more complicated than I ever realized. And there's beauty in kind of checking yourself in that. And I was like, oh yeah, this is art. It's meditative, it's a practice. And to your point, you draw 100 skeletons before you draw one, you go, that's what a skeleton looks like. I drew all of the bones this time. It's not, so there's beauty in that, and taking classes is a great place to start. Getting a sketchbook, and maybe just a paint pen and trying something, not being afraid to mess up, make mistakes and learn as you go. So everyone is creative, everyone can make art. It's just what you bring to it and how you find your flow in it, I think it's a good place to approach it.
I was just going to add on to that art doesn't have, there's no right or wrong way to make art. So if you think of, because I teach children all the time, and some adults as well, who get really hung up about this wasn't how, my son is one of them, this isn't how it's supposed to look. I tell them, for me, when I make mistakes, sometimes it ends up being a lot better than what I initially intended. You can also make art not to display or have it admired, but for your own well-being. Art therapy is a real thing. And Upcycle, again, has had art therapy classes where we would actually just it's something where you're mapping your neurons in your brain. I won't get into all of it, but it's a way to relax, to get into a flow state. That's how I started making art, visual art, was because I wanted an escape, and then found that feeling, even if I never use what I made, the process of it, of creating something new, and the way that your mind works when you're being creative is so beneficial. So I really hope, I know a lot of people get hung up, I'm not good at this, I'm not, there's no right or wrong answer, but I think the process, if more people are open to just sitting down and taking time to just create something, for the creation part itself, it is really beneficial.
So if all of that sounds terrifying, I am totally with you on that. But what you can do is you can participate. You can be a patron. You can go and visit a piece of public art. You can go and check out an exhibit at the Colasano Center with the Del Rey artisans, or go to the Torpedo Factory and see what the artists there are making. As we've all said, Alexandria, there's just so many opportunities. We've got a number of choral groups, a number of orchestral groups, a number of theaters that are here. There is definitely something for you to find, for you to engage in, even if you don't want to make it yourself. The other thing is, though, is that our artists and our arts organizations need folks to participate. They need patrons. They need for folks to come and hear their performances, see their exhibitions. So, if, like I said, if making it is kind of not your thing, like I said, up there, but definitely participating and engaging with the arts is great. Oh, yeah.
And volunteering,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
So many of our arts organizations are volunteer driven.
Yeah,
And need your
85%.
support that way. And I think as an artist, for me, it's true. If there's not someone experiencing what you have to share, there's something missing. We're not creating art in a vacuum. And you are participating in a conversation with the creators, whether they're a musician, a painter, a dancer, you're part of that back and forth. So, and kind of on that note, this is going to be our last question before we move to some audience questions, if you have them. Are there any upcoming opportunities or events that you would like the audience to know about?
I got handed the microphone first, and I actually don't have any upcoming events. I'm hot off the heels of my first solo show. I participated in thank you. And I participated was at the plastic art show at the Sustainability Alexandria Dog Walk Festival, and I ran a Earth Day event in Falls Church, and so I'm taking some time off, some much needed time off. If you haven't noticed, I have a broken ankle too, so I'm going to pass it off to those that hopefully have some upcoming events.
Yes, so I brought, so we have had this event called the Refashion Show in Alexandria the last 2 years. We feature clothing, jewelry, and visual artists who use at least 80% reclaimed materials. We have been sold out the last 2 years. We actually also partner with organizations like Upcycle to do hands-on mending, things of that nature. So we are actually looking, we're in the process of selecting a larger venue, but our date is set. So I brought some cards in case you're interested in learning more about what we do. It's an all volunteer run organization with a lot of different artists across the DMV and some from even outside of our area. But it will be in October 17th.
I'm going to plug the Little Theater of Alexandria, which is a place that I do a lot of, I design sets there, I paint sets there, I've actually acted a few times. That is another amazing arts place that we have here in Old Town. It's one of the longest running community theaters, like, I think in the country, if I'm correct. Don't quote me on that, I know it's being recorded, but it's been around for a long time. It's a fantastic institution. It's all volunteer led as well. And I'm working on a show right now there, I'm designing a set there, and support that theater because they do an amazing run. It's like a 3-week run for community theater. It's fantastic. They're always doing amazing shows, and if you're a carpenter and want to build, they're always looking for people to come and build sets if you want to paint a set. So there's other ways to get involved there. So anyway, LTA is a great place too.
So I'm going to give a shout out to one of our large programs that's happening this year as part of the nation's 250th celebration. So we will have Sails on the Potomac, June 12th, 13th, and 14th. So it's 3 days of tall ships and music. So Friday is Americana, Saturday is jazz, Sunday is the future sounds of Alexandria, plus 3 visiting tall ships. Get your tickets now. Tickets are free to get on the tall ships. You can go on the city's website to get your tickets, but it's going to be a big 3 days all up and down Alexandria's waterfront. So be prepared.
And of course, I have to plug all of those library events. If you haven't seen our library calendars, we've got amazing things coming up at all of our locations, art, craft, things celebrating America's 250th. So I definitely encourage you either to stop by and pick up a calendar today or check out our other locations as well. So with that, let's go to, if we have any audience questions, right there in the back. Yes.
I'm Victor Russell, and I congratulate all the artists for your powerful work. And I participated in the Tiny Art Show, and I didn't know they were big chairs, but as I was designing this, I thought a larger chair would have greater impact. And I wanted to ask you, is there a gallery or an organization that might be interested in showing a larger version of my chair in good company?
Oh, that's a good question.
That is a great question, and we will probably have to get back on you. So what we're talking about is the Tiny Art Show, which we do every year. In the past, it's been a tiny canvas. But this year, because we had our large chairs, we had small chairs, and I think we actually have some Tiny Art Show kits in the back for those of you that would like to participate. We had our kits finished on display in the library. Thank you so much for participating. It was absolutely amazing to see.
I was very impressed.
I'm curious. Oh, sorry. Each of you then had to submit an idea that you already scoped out your total idea before you were selected them. I mean, that must have required a lot of thought to put it together. And then I'm curious, how many hours would you estimate the time that you took? I mean, I know what all Jenny does. She does a lot. She still did, the Eagle Chair. So I'm impressed. I was at an art show at our church Sunday before our member artists displayed their work and talked about how they got started. And one of them they all said, anybody can paint. And I have a whole slew of supplies. Also, I'm involved as a volunteer with the Government Orchestra. We just had a fabulous concert last Saturday or Sunday. And we had over 4,000 in the audience. Huge at an Arlington school. Not 4,000, excuse me, 400. Over 400. And we have another concert coming up on Sunday the 16th at St. Mark's Lutheran Church in Springfield, it's free, it's gonna be ensembles. And then we have our fall concert on November 11th, I believe. So, just, go online and check out the Nova Symphony Orchestra. Thank you.
So to that question, we did have a proposal that was to be submitted. So did your, that's fine, I'm loud. Did your proposal versus your actual chair change, and about how long did it take for you to complete?
So my proposal, my chair pretty much exemplifies what I intended to do or what the proposal said. But the instructions were, it did not have to be like to the letter of what you projected. And for me, I kept thinking of new things to introduce. As far as time, I'll say I thought I had more time than I had. Honestly. I thought the instructions said I had till the 28th of March. Then when I reread, it said the 18th of March. I said, that's in 2 weeks. So, 2 weeks I executed that chair.
Yeah, just to add, we didn't have to execute to a T, like Vicki said. I knew I wanted to make an eagle. I didn't know I was going to add everything else to it. That morphed as I went along. I think it took me about 120 hours.
Same thing, I kind of morphed. I spent 2 weeks basically working full time, sometimes even 10-hour days, because I timed myself because I was curious. Because I get lost, I never realize how long things take sometimes. But 2 weeks to actually make the chair. I did spend quite a bit of time researching, so that was at least, I went to the library and read a couple different books or pieces of books to do research, so that also factored into it.
Yeah, similarly, I mean, yeah, I'm someone who likes to chip away at things. Like, I'll do this part, and then I'll do this part, and then the week before, it's like all the things come together. It's very much crunch time. But yeah, mine, I think I visualized it in my head, and then I wrote it, and then I said, how am I going to do that? So but it evolved. I added things to it that I didn't know were there. There were some happy accents along the way. It was like, oh, that's cool. I want to embrace that. So yeah, definitely an evolution from the original pitch. But it was great that we had the flexibility to do that.
Yes. Yeah, most
Yes.
definitely.
Was there a question over here?
With the complexity of your pieces, how difficult was it getting it here for the show?
Transportation.
Let's talk about that.
Mine was laid in the back of my partner's Honda Fit, and the seats were down, and I had to lay on the back as well, in the back seat, like next to it, holding it so that nothing broke. So it was a challenge, especially when I added, 2.5 foot tall corn stalks made of dowel rods that could snap at any minute. So, I made it. It's beautiful. I love it. How do I get it to the library? It was definitely a thing, but it came in one piece. So yeah. Your eagle. I wouldn't. How do you remember that?
So yes, same. And I brought my hot glue gun, I brought wire, I brought just about everything I could think of in case it broke in transit. And then I think yours and mine actually stayed put.
Yes, yeah.
Because the library was like, we're not moving these. Now that they're here, they're here. Yeah.
And definitely a huge shout out to our communications team and library staff that took these to different places around the community. Hopefully you got to see them.
Thank you all for so generously sharing your inner process. It's really fascinating to hear. And I love your emphasis on all of us getting in touch with our inner artists. I think you're absolutely right on about that. And one thing that really concerns me as a parent, grandparent, is how do we get this message to our kids who so desperately need it? So I'd just love to hear any thoughts any of you have on that topic. Thank you.
I'll just answer really quick. Art in schools is number one. I try to get into one school a year, specifically Fairfax County, because that's where I live. I know Ashley teaches classes at Upcycle, but yeah, kids naturally gravitate to the arts, and they also naturally gravitate to sustainability and reuse. So it's not a hard thing to sell to them. And as soon as you get a kid in, they're hooked. Even the kids that are quiet and, you know, kind of off on their own, art is a great way to pull them, you know, to pull things out of them. So yeah, classes.
I was gonna say, I know that like I'm guilty of being on my phone a lot, and I think a lot of young people are as well. And my algorithm or whatever it may be, the machine that feeds me what I see, shows me artistic things by design. So if you want to meet someone, especially a young person who might really like their phone, maybe if you find something on your device to then relate, hey, this is something cool, could we make this together? I think is always an interesting way. The phone can be in the space, could be a guide, but at the end of the day, it slowly fades away because you're making it with someone. So I know that projects I've done with friends and family that maybe start for something, oh, I saw it online, how can we make that together, might be a good bridge, because I think that unfortunately our phones are attached to us, especially I know social media can be a huge thing. So it's maybe it's the doorway in, and then before you know it, you'll be making art with someone, and that becomes a little more important. So that's my advice. Yeah.
Just wanted to add on to that, and especially what Jenny said about art in schools, making sure people really recognize that all the arts, music, theater, dance, visual art, are core subjects. They're very important to the development of a young person. I've been very privileged to see two different angles. I used to work in music, where I worked with the DC Public Schools, and we had some children who were sort of falling through the cracks that got embraced with jazz, and some of them went on to go to Duke Ellington and go to college, when all the other subjects, they found their niche. And I'm a very strong supporter of music in the schools and visual art. I think it reaches a lot of children that may not fit traditionally with the core subjects. Art should be a core subject, but it also has so many other benefits. They don't have to become a professional musician or a professional artist, but they will develop so much more as a person. So if you can advocate for arts in your schools, think of music and visual art and dance, all the artistic disciplines, as an essential component of someone's education and not just a frivolous add-on, which unfortunately I've been watching programs get cut, and they always cut the arts first.
So yes to all of that. I mean, art in the schools is essential. What we're seeing is that as arts programs are getting cut, fewer artists are, being created because of that. And it's not going to work out well for the future. But the other thing is same what I asked of the community. Get the kids to, take the kids to see public art. Take the kids to see a play. Take the kids to hear a concert. It might be a little tough at first, depending on what it is, but, just the more you can keep doing that, get them to understand that the arts are an integral part to our community, so that, even if they are not artists when they get older, they understand that it's something that they should expect their community to support.
And I'll put my teen services hat on. One of the most powerful things that you can do is model that behavior. If you have a young person in your life, spend time with them talking about art, or drawing, or visiting a museum, or sharing your skills of knitting, of crochet, of sewing. Because as our artists kind of mentioned throughout the talk today, those memories that they had of growing up with supportive artists and supporting the arts has stuck with them. So that is just one of the strongest things that you can do. We have time for one more question.
Thank you so much for your work. I'm getting emotional because I'm following what you just said. I'm an early childhood teacher, and I work with, now I'm working as a coach or mentor, technical assistant on schools, with the teachers who work in daycare center. And I'm very blessed because they are from all around the world. They didn't born
then knowing your art with that theme is amazing, amazing. Thank you. Because I came here 36 years ago, so I'm born in Guatemala. Then thank you for sharing your art, your knowledge. And I always, when I work with my teachers, I say mine, with my teachers, I always share the love for the arts and the whole arts. And I always tell them because they're wonderful artists. They say there is food for the spirit and the mind. And thank you so much. We work with Wolf Club, the Art Institute, because we go along with that. We need to, the arts are amazing for the children to use and be exposed and be able to learn and explore all these concepts. Thank you. Then my question is, for how long are all the chairs are going to be here together?
So all of the chairs will be available today in one location and tomorrow in one location. So if you really want to see them all in the same place, make sure you see them today or tomorrow because they will be coming down. We unfortunately are out of time. We have some recognitions that we would want to do at the end. I just wanted to give a last round of applause to our amazing panelists for giving their time for the panel, time for these chairs that are going to be raising money for the Library Foundation. Just such an amazing thing. So thank you.